watching what you do, right? I came to know you as the founder of this company in 2020, right? During the pandemic, everybody's at home, and here you come flashing on my internet feed. Everything. I'm like, who is this black lady?
Because I was the only one still going around the country.
Listen.
Like, everybody was in the house. I was like, I got work to do.
You was out here, I said, okay. But what I noticed was, in the beginning, you were not the CEO and founder.
No.
You were not out in front. So tell me, why were you just the historian?
Yeah, I was a historian because when this began, it was twofold. The first is my entire leadership team then and now are women. Every man in my company reports into a woman. And we were all reaching in for things like we needed corks, bottles, liquid for in the bottles because we sourced before we were distilling our own, all the different things, distributors, everything we needed in order to be able to come out into the marketplace. And I'm talking to Catherine Durkins, my chief business officer at that time, and she's telling me about how for weeks and weeks and weeks she can't get anybody to call her back. Then I'm talking to our head of whiskey operations, Sherry Moore, same thing. And I put the two and two together because I wasn't getting calls back either. So I called my husband and I said, babe, I want to just test something out.
Yeah.
And I had Kate and Sherry put together a synopsis of who they were calling, why they need, what they needed, and the contact information. And I asked Keith to call all of them as the lead, as the head of Uncle Nearest. And in every single time, every single phone call, they either picked up the phone or he got a call back by the end of the day. And by the end of the call, it was always, hey, do you golf?
Do you golf?
Do you drink beer? And because this was a bro industry. That was just what this was.
Very good old boys.
Total good old boy. But what I realized is because I didn't have an ego about it and wasn't bothered by it, if I could let him do those phone calls, I could be focused completely on sales, marketing, branding, and PR. Fly entirely under the radar, no darts on my back, because I'm just the historian. So that was the first reason. The second reason is coming into this space, bourbon had never been marketed to anyone outside of a white male. So the percentage of bourbon consumers skewed so heavily white male, and I needed to figure out what was the most approachable way for them to digest me out the gate. And historian was what I knew they'd be able to digest. Then all I had to do was get them to taste the liquid. And they would be consumers for life. So that was until we transformed the consumer base so that it's still, I mean, our consumers, we have so many white men that like switched bourbons like for life, right? And so that 30% of the population, this doesn't mean that they're not still consuming Uncle Nearest. They consume a hell of a lot of Uncle Nearest. But what I was very intentional about doing is making sure I also went after the 70% of America that we refer to as the minority, which I don't know how 70% of America could be minority, but that's fine.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's fine, right? But we went after the other 70% that are BIPOC and women. And so going after the 100% is why you see what you now see. But it would have been easier for both sides to see me as a historian and to pat me on the head and go, oh, how cute.
How cute. And here you are, of course.
How cute.
But what I love so much about your story is you're in the legacy business.
I am.
So you remove the ego because you are solely geared toward the legacy.
And it's not my legacy. Right? So I can't have an ego if I know I was personally tapped for whatever reason. I have to imagine there's a lot of September 5th birthdays out here, so it could have been somebody else, right? I was hand selected to run this leg of the race. This, literally, I hold the baton as long as I'm alive. And before I transition, I will pass the baton properly, right? But I understand this is just my leg of the race. And so ego, it can't be a part of anything.
How do you remove it though? How do you kind of separate yourself in those moments where, because we all get it. You know, we all have those moments where, now this is mine, so what you about to do? How do you have those moments where you say, look, let me take a breath and remove it?
I've never had that moment. I'm not, so there is, to know me is to know that my faith is everything. It is the firm foundation on which I stand. It's not just a song, that's literally on which I stand. And anyone who has ever read the story of King Saul and David will know that Israel was never supposed to have a king. Saul was put in that position because Israel was demanding a king. And God was like, you don't need a king, but fine. You want some man to be over you? I'll put you there. And then Saul decided to listen to other people instead of listening to God. So then here comes David, a man after God's own heart. Saul was always supposed to be the one and only king of Israel. David was never supposed to be king. I refuse to be Saul.
I know that's right.
I refuse to be Saul.
So you look, the biblical principles, look, you have built your company on biblical principles. You said, look, I'm going to put these notes down because this
I told you you're not going to need the notes.
This is real. You just speaking my language now.
I told you to need the notes. I told you.
Listen, I didn't need these. You know, you said that you're the only company where you have a chaplain.
We do.
Like the NFL, the Major League Baseball, NBA, they all have chaplains.
And so do we.
And you have a chaplain.
We're the only distillery. I'll give you a really good example. When we opened Humble Baron this weekend, world's longest bar, you have never seen so many races and generations under one roof, dancing to the same music, enjoying, like literally talking to each other, people that didn't know each other. Everybody was in there. And yesterday at the end of Gospel Sunday brunch,
listen,
in the world's longest bar, and I mean, Kyla wrecked that house. She preached, she said, but at the end of it, there was this couple that came up to us from New Jersey. They came in specifically for this weekend of Humble Bear. We had so many people that flew in for this. They came in specifically for this, specifically for the gospel brunch. And it's two couples, one had been black couples, one had been married 25 years, one married 27. And he said, look, I was just talking to my partner, and I said, we're in the city. We couldn't, even if we tried to do this, like even if we decided, let's just replicate this and put this in the city, because you know we're in the middle of nowhere. You had to pass the Confederate flags to get here.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of cow pastures.
Listen. And they're like, you're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, at the bar, packed. And it'll be packed every day we're open.
Yeah.
And you got 200 seats around the bar. That doesn't even include tables. And so he said, this is such a brilliant idea. My first thought was, we should replicate this in Jersey. And he said, but we couldn't, because we wouldn't be able to keep the thugs out. And we wouldn't be able to stop the fights. And he's like, and I'm looking around here, and you've had all these people in here all weekend, like jam-packed, 1,000 people at a time. And there's no fights, there's no argument. He's like, it was all love. He's like, I couldn't replicate that. I said, that has nothing to do with where we are. Let me introduce you to our chaplain, who is also from South New Jersey. And I called Elder Alex and I said, these are some of your peeps, I think they want to talk to you. That's why. Because this property, every day, the grounds are covered in prayer. Every day. So our team members have more joyful lives at work and at home, because they have somebody who's praying over them intentionally every single day. I mean, you've seen me travel this country from 2020 until now.
100 cities.
Non-stop, 100 cities in 100 days, non-stop, height of COVID. I haven't gotten COVID one time. I haven't gotten sick one time. Other than I lose my voice every now and again.
Well, that's because you're out here.
Because I'm out here talking, right?
Doing the Lord's work.
And so during the height of COVID, I was like, Alex, our people are about to go back into the field. I need you to pray over all of them that none of them get COVID. And they were out in that field every day.
I love that. Faith has been the guiding principle of your entire life. But one thing that you love is music.
Yes.
Garth Brooks.
I love Garth.
I heard, listen, I said, that's on your Mount Rushmore.
That is.
Jay-Z, Beyonce, Garth Brooks. But Garth Brooks is the center. Country music has been such a pillar for you. And you've leaned on the lyrics. Talk about why country music has had such an influence in your life.
I think country music chose me, and I think it was to allow me an entire lifetime, because I'm 46 now. When I moved here, I was 40 years old. The transition to where my purpose was for this leg of the race felt very comfortable to me, because I've been listening to all the stories in country music my whole entire life. So nothing here took me by surprise at all. because I had learned the good, the bad, the ugly, the great of all things Tennessee, because this is truly Nashville. This is country music, right? Yeah. But my little sister, Gabrielle, she loves to talk about how embarrassed she was when I would pick her up from high school.
To the school.
Look, and she went to a hood school. She went to the same high school as I did. It's the hood. And I would pull up blasting Garth Brooks. I wasn't trying to prove any kind of point, but that was the music of my choice, even then.
Yeah.
And so for me, I love storytelling. The reason why I love Jay and I love Beyonce is because they're storytellers. Yeah. They're not just great performers, they're storytellers. So Garth, Beyonce, Jay, those are my Mount Rushmore, but all of them, I mean, they could create a Smithsonian library, museum, just on the lyrics from those three people, and it would transform the world.
Yeah. Because you love the 444 album.
Oh, I love it. I don't know why that's so underrated.
It is very underrated. The story of OJ.
It was brilliant. Yeah. The story of OJ for $9.99, as Jay would say. He was teaching them something that the Jews had learned and passed down.
About wealth.
About wealth. Yeah. And not just about wealth, but about identity. Right? That's something that we're able to learn from. Because you had 4 million people that died all at the same time. You're talking in a matter of a few years under one man's regime, right? Slavery was atrocious.
Absolutely.
It was not 4 million people who landed on our shores. Like literally Lewis Gates and a bunch of others have gone back and tracked the records to see how many. It's like 218,000, I think, or no, 388,000. Are the number of enslaved people that actually came to America. Now then, obviously, we birthed children that became enslaved as well, right? But who landed on our shores was 388 because those middle passages took too many hours. So by the time they got here, and so when you're looking at our community and their community and the destruction that was meant to kill both of our populations off in their entirety, why we would learn from that? To me is crazy, because we went in two different paths once we got here. They were, if you look at all the entertainers, the Jewish entertainers in those earlier days, they all adopted American names because no one would hire them with their last names.
Someone who works on your staff.
Yeah, Jess Davis.
Yes.
Jess Davis. She celebrates all the Jewish holidays, and I couldn't figure out why, because her last name is Davis. And so I asked her, I said, so Jess, by the way, I'm so impressed with how much research I have never sat across from someone who's done this much research. Never. And I've been interviewed hundreds of times. I've never.
You are not the first one to say that. Just go ahead and let the record reflect.
Let me tell you, you do not play.
I do not play.
You do not come to play. That excellence. I love excellence.
I know. This is how you hire people with excellence.
I love excellence.
Yeah.
But I asked Jess, I mean, this was more recently. She was celebrating another Jewish holiday, and I said, what was your maiden name? And she said, Davis. I was like, but then why are you celebrating all the Jewish holidays? And she says, my grandparents couldn't get any work with their Jewish last names, so they changed it to Davis. So you have a whole entire population that just by having the last name on a resume, you didn't get a call back.
Yeah.
We deal with that now.
Yeah.
With our unique names, Shaniqua, and like all the rest of that stuff, people see it on a resume and they put it to the side.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so there's so many parallels between us and the Jewish people. And Jay was simply saying, watch them.
Yeah.
Because he understood the parallels.
Yeah.
Watch them. Yeah. And instead people got offended that he said, this is how the Jews did it.
Yeah.
And that was the bar that should have made you listen, not get upset.
Yeah. It's amazing how we take that one little
thing,
and we will create a whole story around it and run with it, and we miss the real point of it all.
Let me tell you, if people would just go back and play the story of OJ on repeat, they would come out of poverty.
We'll probably be listening on the ride home.
Good. The lyrics are genius.
Yeah,
the lyrics
really are.
Genius.
They really are.
And even him, people got so offended with him going house nigga, field nigga.
Yeah.
That's what we were.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why we want to change what our past was.
Change the story.
It doesn't make any sense. We can't rewrite that.
Yeah.
We need to honor what our past was and create a different future. But if we're spending time barking at the air over something we can't change, that means we're not spending time actually building the wealth, actually building generational wealth, actually learning how to take care of our finances and passing that down to our children and our grandchildren. We're not doing any of that because we're still dealing with the story of OJ and whether or not Jay-Z should have said, how's it gonna feel nigga?
Listen, and then Beyonce is she really believe in all the things? You know how we do.
It's all the things. It's the number of, I don't argue, that's not my thing, but the number of debates I've had over whether or not Beyonce could actually sing, I'm like, I am not going to debate with y'all over this. Like, that is fact.
It's a fact. Dangerously in love.
Fact.
Done. Okay, we can go back to Destiny's Child. Okay,
done.
It's done.
Even when she performed for, I remember it was in an all-white dress, and I was here when she performed it for, I can't remember the organization.
Global Citizens or something.
The UN. I think it was the UN.
One of those, yeah.
Her singing "I Was Here" should have just shut everybody up. She should not have had to have gone to listen with the Dream Girl to shut people up. And they're still talking. I don't understand. I don't understand.
So we're coming to a time because this is going so fast. Yeah.
Oh,
child, you got a busy day. Look, we got to get you out. Okay, we're on your schedule.
I still love it though.
Listen,
I appreciate you.
You said that the story of Uncle Nearest and Jack Daniels is a story of forgiveness and grace.
Yes.
What has this story taught you most in your life about forgiveness?
I think that it has taught me that in the current moment, understanding that it is very possible that all of us have been indoctrinated with some sort of belief that you can't undo. So for instance, people here in the South that learned that the Civil War was the northern, what do they call it, the northern aggression, right? And that it wasn't really about slavery, that it was about taxes and them wanting to secede the nation. This is what they learned from their grandparents, their parents. They learned it from the teachers in school. Those are the people who everyone tells you trust them over everyone else. They were indoctrinated into that belief. And it wasn't until I got here and started talking to people who weren't racist, but still pledged to the Confederate flag, that I got this, because I'm from LA. And so I had this thought process that they're just in denial. But once I began talking to people who weren't racist, but they still embraced the Confederate flag and all the Confederacy and all the rest of that stuff, where I got challenged was then I thought about my faith in Jesus. Because if I tell you the story of Jesus being born of a virgin, dying and coming back 3 days later, that story makes no sense. But I was indoctrinated to it. I believe it with my whole heart. You can't change me that no matter what proof you have, you cannot shake my belief in Jesus Christ. But on paper, it makes no sense. That's the people who still believe in the statues and the Confederacy and all that. That's their indoctrination. So what I learned when it comes to forgiveness, that's not just in the past. That's literally a daily thing. When I meet someone who I'm like, oh, you were indoctrinated into that. I don't need to argue with you because this was your indoctrination, and no matter what I say, it's not going to change what you believe. Because when the foundation of your life is something, it's too much to shake that. It's literally like everything you believe starts wobbling if your base gets destroyed. And so that for me every day, like I drive by Confederate flags, they don't bother me for 2 seconds, like at all. Because I look at it and go, you were indoctrinated that way, and I forgive you for not understanding.
So what's one thing you've had to unlearn or challenge in this season of building this very successful business that is done 100 million in sales this year and climbing? What have you had to
100 million last year, we'll do 200 million.
Oh, cute, baby. Numbers don't lie.
We'll do 200 million.
Listen. So what have you had to unlearn, or what have you had to challenge most in this process?
I think what I've had to challenge is to create the culture that I saw to be the culture to carry Nearest Green Distillery and Uncle Nearest forward is counterculture. So I had to unlearn what people tell you. So I'll give you a really good example. My last class that I had to take in person at the University of Alabama, the professor, leadership professor, he's the leader, he is the person that oversees that department. He's been teaching leadership around the world for 45 years. And he was sharing with the class, you know, you have to be very careful. You can't touch someone's shoulder. You can't get too close, be in someone's personal space. And he's giving them all these HR boundaries. And I raised my hand and I said, Dr. Thompson, I have to challenge you on this. Because not only do I hug every single one of my team members around the world, but my team members hug each other. We sign off with, I love you. Like, it is true love. It is true family. And his response to me was, Mrs. Weaver, you can challenge me, and you are the only person who can challenge me, because I've been to your establishment and you have not built a company. And he turns to the class and he says, she built a family.
She's built a family. So what's one thing you want your family to know about you on this journey that you've had, the success that you've had? What's one thing that they may not know about you that you want them to know?
I have to be a hard ass to do what I do. I really have to hold people accountable. There's a reason there's never been a successful Black-owned and founded spirit brand, ever. There's a reason for that, and I'm real clear about what those reasons are. And so those reasons, I have to hold those people's feet to the fire. The distributors, I have to hold their feet to the fire every single day. And do you know how uncomfortable it is to pick up the phone and call a 65-year-old white man who's been doing this for 45 years, because the president of a distributorship has never had anybody call him out. And I'm gonna be the one, the first one that calls him out? And I do this on a regular basis. And it was something that my husband, oddly enough, we've been married almost 20 years, he just learned 3 weeks ago. I'm really uncomfortable making those calls. Completely uncomfortable challenging people. Completely uncomfortable holding people's feet to the fire. I don't enjoy it at all. It's not what comes innate to me. I want to hug everybody. But I understand the only way that gets done is not through hugs. It's by making people walk up home. And people say you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. Getting comfortable being uncomfortable is still uncomfortable. Yeah. And so the one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about me is I hate having to put somebody in check. I hate it, but it has to happen.
Yeah, it has to happen. What's one thing that really, I had so many things that I was like, but our time, girl, this time, I said this time went by so fast. It went by so fast. But one of the things that I wanted to say to you is Robin Roberts has a quote that she lives by: when fear knocks, let faith answer the door. And so what's one nugget of faith that you can give people as they continue on their journey?
Yeah, I will tell you, and it's so crazy, but I quote him regularly, is Curtis Jackson, is 50 Cent. It's an interview he did with Oprah a really long time ago, when Oprah learned that he gives his grandmama pedicures every week, that goes to her house, gives her a pedicure. And she's talking about the fact that he had been shot 9 times, and she said, do you ever worry? And so quickly, he said, no. Now mind you, this was at a point in my life where I did a lot of worrying. This was over a decade ago, this interview happened. And I did a lot of worrying at that time. I was always worried. And I remember the interview, and his response to why he didn't worry came so quickly and so effortlessly. And he said, you cannot pray about something and worry about it at the same time. Yeah. He said, if you pray about it and you worry about it, the worry negates the prayer. Yeah. And so from that point forward, I really did train myself not to worry. Literally trained myself. And I trained myself by saying, if I have the faith to believe in the prayer that I prayed, then I should not be worrying about what I just prayed about. And so with all of the stuff that's been built, I got to run fast and break a whole lot of stuff. But I'm not worrying about any of it, because I have the faith to believe that the prayer that I prayed over what would have otherwise been my worry was great enough to take care of it.
Thank you, Fawn. Look, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm so excited that you all joined us for our Vault Empowers Talk with the beautiful, the wonderful storyteller, the author, the wife, the beautiful human, Fawn Weaver. Y'all know I love to give notes at the end, child. You know I love a good takeaway. It's a teacher in me. And so wake up every day purpose driven, knowing that you may walk in as one, but baby is 10,000 coming with you. So we thank you for sharing your journey with the world, and that on this leg of the race, that you got all the faith, all the power, all the love, all the grace that you need to keep running. So thank you.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Brandi Harvey. Thanks for watching our video today. But guess what? It does not stop there. I need you to do something. I need you to like. I need you to subscribe. But I also need you to share it with somebody who needs some daily motivation. Make sure you are subscribed to the Vault platform because we got more content on the way. It's your girl, Brandi Harvey. You already know we empower every day, all day.